and welcome. My name is Kwabena. Welcome. I want to share with you marriage and entrepreneurship. Marriage and entrepreneurship. They say that one of the most important decisions that you ever make, you know, as a human, is who becomes your partner, who becomes your wife, or who becomes your husband, who you end up spending your life with. That is, if you ever consider to get somebody like that. And one of the most difficult decisions that you ever make as a human, if you ever try at all, is also ever deciding to say that I want to become an entrepreneur, I want to start a business. And if you happen to put the two together, if you happen to, start the family, start the marriage, and also start the business at the same time, then your situation is a whole different level. And so you have to have a certain level of mindset, you have to have a certain level of understanding, a certain level of exposure to be able to, juggle with the two, to be able to have the business running, have to be able to build the business, and at the same time to be able to hopefully build a family. And all of them demand a lot of effort, a lot of input. And great men and women have found it very difficult to put the two together and become successful at the two at the same time. Some of them will be able to build a very good business, then maybe they fail at the marriage or not so good, or some will be able to build good marriage and then they fail the business. But to be able to have the two together takes a lot of effort. Takes a lot of effort. My understanding, or what I think about this, if you look at the kind of effort, the kind of work that each of them requires, the kind of work that to have a successful marriage or to build a family requires. It requires a lot of time, a lot of input, a lot of maturity, a lot of finances. And then if you're building a business as an entrepreneur, it also requires a lot of that. So my understanding is that if you're a young man, if you're a young woman, and you have not taken somebody already, I will say that if you can, maybe try to build the business and see if you can succeed in it before you go to start a family, because doing the two at the same time is that crazy, is that difficult. And if you happen to have a good choice, then maybe you may give it a shot. So it's the two demand a lot of effort, the two demand a lot of input, and the two demand a lot of finances. And to be able to be successful at the two at the same time takes a lot of effort, a lot of input. And so you should, for me, you should be able to at least explain. If both of you are in the business at the same time, I think you have a fair chance, a better chance of at least understanding what it takes to build a business from ground up, from zero to wherever you are trying to build a business. But if one is employed and the other one is trying to build a business, there's so much confusion, because one, you live in different world. The other one lives with something that is not predictable at all. It's chaotic, it's erratic. You don't know where it's going, you don't know where it's coming from. That's the business, that's the entrepreneur. And let's say the other one is employed. The person is sure at the end of the month, this is the kind of money that I'm going to receive. Their life is a bit structured and organized. The business person, the entrepreneur, your life is not organized at all. You don't know, especially at the beginning, at the budding stage, at where you are trying to test the model, you are trying to test the idea, you're trying to raise the money, you're trying to build a team, you're trying to get the business running. Nothing is predictable at that stage. And what makes it even more difficult is that you yourself, you're not even skilled. You're trying to mobilize skill, you're trying to mobilize expertise, you're trying to get a lot of things at this stage, and at the same time you're trying to build a family. So it is that crazy. And if you ever talk to anybody who is an entrepreneur, one of the people who would ever find it difficult to understand them is the spouse, is the husband, or is the wife. It's that tough, especially if they are not doing it. Because then, because you're making a lot of errors, you're making a lot of decisions that may not work. If the other person who is not involved in the business, to them, you appear like you're crazy. And the thing is that all the decisions that you're making will have direct effect on the family's peace and on the family's finances. And as usual, most people building businesses don't have any money anyway, and all their time is gone. And so the romance that people are looking for, the friendship that people are looking for, the heart, you are not going to be there, for you to go through all the nice things that people go through when they are married. Your mind is almost always choke on trying to get the business going, and the business can stay there for you push it, it's not going, you push it, it's not going. So just as the time that you need the family to bond, that's just the time that you also decided to build a business. And so it will take you a lot of effort. One of my recommendation will be to do a lot of talking, do a lot of explanation, even if you're not understood, and be ready to embrace all the errors and the mistakes and take responsibility for. You don't have to blame the other person if they don't really understand it, if they don't get you. You have to have the big heart to know that this journey is that difficult, and sometimes it's not only difficult for you, it's also difficult for the other person, because the other person loves you. That's why that person is with you, and for them, or for that person who the spouse, which may not be an entrepreneur, they feel the pain. I mean, they feel it when you're losing the money, they feel it when people are insulting you, they feel it when there's debt, they feel it when the business does not go through, that hasn't gone through. They feel a lot of the mistakes, and for them, they can only empathize, but they may not know what to do. So do a lot of talking, and take full responsibility for the part that you have taken, and know that this is double pressure position that you are in, building a business and building a family at the same time, especially doing it in in a part of the world. It's crazy, it's nasty, it's chaotic, but it can be done. So even though you're going to spend a lot of time trying to, work on the business, once in a while, also make sure that you don't lose the marriage, and whatever that you're doing that is keeping you mature, whatever book that you're reading, whatever videos that you're watching, wherever that you are getting information to keep you to deal with this pressure for building a business, make sure that the other partner at least gets access to the same. Because if you don't take care, you get to a point you become so much apart, because what is feeding you to be able to deal with this robust life may not be feeding the other partner. So if you don't take care, by the time the business starts to make some kind of sense to you, by the time that the business starts to become successful, you may be two different personalities, individuals living in the same house, very strange people. Why? Because what the path that you took and what was able to make you go through, the other person may not have also taken the same path. So it's so much important that maybe the books that you're reading, the things that you listen to, the things that motivate you, that encourage you, the expertise that you're building, you should find a way of getting the other person involved, even if they are not fully in the business. Even if they are not fully in the business, because building a marriage and building a family, or building a business, is crazy. Most often, entrepreneur, you go out and the people ask you, what do? You don't have any title. So people ask you, so okay, what? So yeah, where do you work? Where are you? To the entrepreneur, it's very difficult to answer. So what do you do? He said, I do business. So what kind of business? In the business, if you're not successful, you're not even, if you don't take care, you'll not be able to, and your wife is with you, or your husband is with you, and maybe she's a corporate director or something. And at that point, you may feel like, my husband is nothing. Or my wife is nothing. She's just trying to, And for most people in a part of the world, if you say you're doing business, they think that you don't have anything to do. You can't get a job. That's why you're doing the business anyway. So that could also be a source of pressure, because then the spouse, if he's not mature, if he doesn't understand the stages of building a business, if he's not talked through, they will think that you are kind of, they will not be proud of you that much, because where's this? Where's that which they can be proud of? You say that you are building this business, but it has taken you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, nothing to show. You don't have money, you don't have a company, you don't have nothing, no stature in society. And so when you go out, when you meet the friends, when you meet the families, and they ask you, what does your wife do? What does your husband do? It's very difficult for them to even reply. And the children is the same. You know, what does your father do? We don't know. He works somewhere. It's easier for them to, at least, it's easier for them to look at the other with organized job title to say that, my father is a banker, or my father is an engineer in this company, or is an architect or a lawyer. That a lot of people can relate to that. So, it, that's how entrepreneurship is anyway. But you just have to make sure that you explain a lot of things. And as the business starts to take some shape and gets to, you start to get office, and you start to build maybe office or employ more people, you'll be a bit, proud of yourself. And so for me, the stage that I know is that at the beginning, the strength that you need to pick the business, and at the same time, the strength that you need to pick the family. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort. So you need so much information. You need so much studies. You need so much, and the kind of general advice that relationship people give, the kind of general advice that marriage experts give. Most often the kind of advice they give it to the people with direct jobs. I'm in a job. My wife is also in a job. We go, we come back at home, cook, we eat, we smile as a family. That is the kind of, I think that maybe 90% of those kind of advice that they give, is for those kind of people. Now, you the entrepreneur, nobody gives you advice, because most people have not done that. Building a family and building trying to pick a business, out of nothing at the same time. So you may have to come up with your own form of, maybe some codes, some commandments, some principles to guide such family. You have to come up with that. And if it happens that both of you are also in business, then that for me maybe it's a bit easier than when one is employed and one is in business. So, but whatever be the case, it's still family. And for me, some people ask, which one do you choose between family and business? I think they are the same because the family fuels on money, and you just have to make sure that both of them are that much important. They are much important, because when people say that, our family comes first, yes, your family comes first, but you have to feed the family. And if you don't have any set goals for yourself, you may not even be interested in the business, in the family. Because you want to express yourself. Most people, most entrepreneurs are expressing themselves through, they just want to build something. Sometimes it's not just the business, they want a meaningful life. And most entrepreneurs think that the way to get a meaningful life is to try to build a business. So especially when they are struggling, it takes a lot of toll on their esteem, on their identity, on their confidence. And so at that point, most people also become a bit more under pressure, and they carry the pressure from the business into the family. So they can shout, they can talk, they can fight when they don't have to fight, they can disagree when it's not so much important to disagree. Why? Because they are under a lot of pressure. So marriage and entrepreneurship can be a very interesting journey, and you just have to know that it's a different category. So you have to look for your own solutions to suit your own kind of journey that you have, because many people don't understand that kind of part. Many people don't understand that kind of part, So because business is tough. If anybody tells you that it's easy, it's lying to you. It's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Very tough. And if anybody tells you marriage is easy, that person is lying. It's a different set of skill to have for you to build a marriage, at least not the one that people are saying they're married to. The one that is fruitful, is productive, is peaceful, the one that fuels the vision. Just talking of just we are married. No, I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of the one that is, because it's a tool. It's a tool. It's not for enjoyment. It's a tool to get more done, to get more results, to pursue a purpose. That kind of marriage, it takes a lot of skill, a lot of input, a lot of intentional, a lot of intentional choices, so to say, for it to work and for it to become an atmosphere where you create a home where you want to come to. You create a home where you want to come to. It takes a lot of input, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of reading, a lot of understanding, whether it's the man, whether it's the woman, you must know a lot for it to work. That's why most people, the happiest part of the marriage was the wedding. After that, it's crazy. Why? Because you need a whole different kind of skill set for you to make it work. And it doesn't come readily to a lot of people like that. So the same with business. For it to work, you need a whole skill set. It is constant process of development, constant process of self-development. Marriage is the same, constant process of self-development. You must grow yourself and the other person must grow themselves. These are two individuals, separate background, who are trying to become very strong team for a purpose. So if the marriage does not have vision, where if you don't know where the marriage is going, if you don't have any goal for the marriage, it's trouble. The same with the business. You don't just do the business because you want to do the business. You must hope. You must have purpose for the marriage. You must have purpose for the business as well. And every one of them is spending money. But if you succeed with the business, it will put the family in a whole different category, because then you'll be able to solve a problem that most people will not be able to solve in their lifetime, which is the money problem. And I think that if money is in the family, a lot of temperatures go down. And that is true. And so you are trying to compress a lot of things in a limited time to create wealth through the business. And that takes your mind off the family. But if you're able to succeed here, then you'll be able to have a fair chance of at least enjoying. And and if you look around, you can see that a lot of people have succeeded doing that as well. But you need a lot of maturity. And so if you're employed, for instance, and you're married to an entrepreneur, try to understand them, try to read about it, try to study, and try to be that much patient. And don't think like they are not wise. They are making so many decisions that any of them can go wrong quickly. It's not being employed and running business. They don't come close at all. It's a world apart. So you can only, it's like having a boyfriend and marrying. They're a world apart. Having a boyfriend is different from having a wife and staying with them for how many years. It's a whole different thing. Just same as business. If you're employed and you have a business, it's a whole different thing. It's a different personality. The kind of person that you have to become a very successful employee and the kind of person that you have to become a very successful business person, they're entirely different. Entirely different. So it's constant process that where you're changing. And if you don't, at least you may not be, we all will not be able to understand the whole process, but at least if you have a fair idea what we are possibly going to go through, better. They said that there's this businessman who was going to build business, and he told the wife that, listen, I am going to try to build this business. You're not going to see much of me, but when I succeed, we will enjoy a lot. And so he stepped out, and he was going, and he was going, and he was going, and he succeeded, and the family became that much prosperous. And that's something about business. If you're able to succeed, you see the world from a position that very few people will see it. You're able to build something that somebody will take 10 years to get in a day, you can get if the business becomes successful. And they say that lack of money or financially related issues are number one reason, or is number one reason, maybe number one reason that families break, marriages break, because most marriages are strained for the money. So if you start the business, maybe the first 4 or 5 years, you'll be strained with the money. And so if the marriage is not, if it doesn't break and the business starts to succeed, maybe you enjoy. And make sure that you don't take all the glory, the one who is the business person, if the other person is employed and the other one is a business person. You should not take all the glory because you think that you are the one on the field. Sometimes the encouragement, the comfort, the advice, the support, had it not been that, your business will not work. Because the one you marry, the kind of person you marry, has a lot to do with whether you're going to succeed or fail. The fact that somebody failed in a marriage does not necessarily mean that they were that weak. Sometimes it's the kind of person that they met, the two individuals who came and the kind of background that they carry. Maybe that's why it didn't work. Maybe if you had married another woman, maybe you wouldn't have even been successful. Or maybe you would have been successful. We don't know. So the kind, whoever, as a matter of fact, it's your decision, and you chose that one. But and if you when you're choosing, you don't know what you're getting into anyway. But I think the best decision is to have chosen the right one for the kind of profession that you would eventually opt for. Some people cannot marry a doctor. Some people cannot marry a police officer. Some people can definitely not marry politicians or maybe a preacher. And so it is with business people. Not everybody can can marry. So if somebody is putting up with your craziness, be thankful, be grateful. And I think that there are some few things you can do to make it work. Just be grateful and be appreciative of the efforts that the other person is doing, because sometimes you, the business person, may not be doing much except the money that you're bringing because your mind is always choked, but you still have to come back, come down to the relationship level. And they say that perfect love has no fear. If you have good heart, you'll be able to survive all the difficulties that come with it. So my name is Obedago. I am trying to talk about marriage and entrepreneurship. I'm wrapping up and I'm saying that it's a very difficult combination, very tough one. And if the two of you are in it, it's better than when one is in it and one is employed. Because then, even when the two of you are in it and you're not in similar businesses, it's that crazy. Very crazy, because that's how it is. But then if you must have purpose for the family, you must have vision because the two of you have come together. Not to fight, but to fight the world, to fight the world, not the two. You are together to get to that vision. So whatever you have to do to be a strong team, you must have that. To be a strong team, to cover one another, each other, and never give up on each other. So to say, be open, be straightforward, be forgiving, be kind, be respectful, and ask intelligent questions from each other, because you married the person anyway. So once you are with the person, they are probably the only person that you spend a lot of time together than any other person, hopefully, and maybe the only person that you talk to often. So their expertise will have direct impact on whatever you are building, whether it's the family, or whether it's the business, whether it's the family, whether it's the business. So you just have to find a way to make sure that the two work. You just have to, so that you don't drain, because the marriage can drain you and the business can drain you and you can fall apart quickly. But it's a decision that so if you're an entrepreneur and you're already in the cage, if you're already in the cage, then you just have to find a way of. And for me, all of us have been programmed in a certain way. The history that we have on women and men, on marriage, on money, they contribute to what we eventually build, whether it's family or business. So if it's been tough, if it's been difficult, maybe the narrative may be wrong. So you just have to re-engineer, because all human beings will respond when there is cooperation, when there is respect, when there is kindness, when there is truthfulness, when there is honesty, when there is openness. All human beings will open up to that, because human beings are wired like that, So all women will respond to that when you're respectful, when you're kind, when they feel like they are making contribution. All men also will the same. If you respect the man, if you appreciate his intelligence, if you're open to the man, it will work. All relationships, because everybody is wired in a way to live and survive on love. All human beings smile with people, smile to people, they smile. If you're nice to people, they are nice. So if you can carry yourself to that, even if it's not 100%, if you can get 50% right by just being a nice person, the best investment that you have is your family anyway. So just have to make sure that it works, and you don't have to invest 10 years or into something and just split it like that. I don't think it's worth it unless it's really not good. So but if you can reprogram, if it's not working, just have to find a way of reprogramming and be supportive. After all, you love them, that's why you got on board, hopefully. So just have to make sure, and every stage is what it requires. If the business is 5 years old, it requires different skill set. When it gets to 10 years, different skill set. When it gets to 20 years, different skill set. The same with a marriage. If it's 10 years old, the kind of things that you will need to make it, peaceful and productive and prosperous will be different from when it's 1 year or when it's 2 years or when it's 20 years. So every stage and what you have to find to make sure it works. But by and large, every human being will will respond to, kindness, openness, gratefulness, appreciation, and so uh, just have to find a way to make sure that life is that enjoyable for both of you and make sure that the business works, because the business is tough, especially in a part of the world is tough, and marriage can also be that tough if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have the right skill, if you don't build the right environment. The marriage can be chaotic for you, but you can change that. You can work on that if you decide to work on it. So if you're an entrepreneur, it's your decision. It's your decision, and there's nothing like bringing your family. If you have children, talk to them about it. Explain to them. Help them. Let them understand that what you're doing is meaningful. Give them proper information. Let them know that what you're doing is worth it. If you employ one person, you're helping the country. So don't talk down upon yourself. If you employ 20 people, and the thing about business is that you have no idea where to go. You have no idea where that business that you started last year can get to in the next 20, 30 years. You have no idea. If you don't quit and you continue to, because then the best skill that you have to have as an entrepreneur is learnability, your ability to learn, to keep going and learning and keep going and learning and keep going and learning and not quitting and not giving up and, stretching. If you are that kind of person, you can use the same skill set to build a family. You continue to learn, continue to learn, continue to learn, continue to learn. You don't say that I'm perfect. No, you make mistakes, you apologize, you say I'm sorry, and you continue. There's nothing wrong if you're wrong and you apologize, and it makes things go around. I tell you. So thank you very much for watching marriage and entrepreneurship. Those things, doing them at the same time, can be fun, or it can be crazy. So you look at the source of information, read, stretch yourself, and be that much big-hearted. You need a lot of patience, and both of them, hopefully, you enjoy them. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.